Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, September 23rd, 2019 Caribou City Council. Roll call, item number one, roll call. Councillor Hugh is visiting with his in-laws who flew in from Hawaii. He will be excused tonight. Other than that, everyone else is present. Number two, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Number three, public forum. Does anyone wish to speak tonight?
Mayor, City Manager, Councilor, my name is Milo Haney. At the last council meeting, I stood up here and I said something that I would like to make a correction to. I stated that the money that the city got from the landfill refund was put towards holding down the mill rate for the 2018 budget. But only a portion of that money was used to hold down the mill rate, not all of it. Since I said that, it looks like I didn't know what the definition of economic development is, according to 11A on your agenda. My definition of economic development is building your community, helping bring in new businesses, help keep businesses here, repair infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, buildings, and so forth. So to define economic development, I went online and it reads, what is economic development? You most likely help fund economic development every time you purchase something at the store and pay local and state sales tax. That cup of coffee, those new shoes you bought, or the real estate tax you may pay, all usually have a percentage of the sales going towards economic development projects and initiatives. In general, economic development is usually the focus of federal, state, and local government to improve our standards of living through the creations of jobs, the support of the innovation and the new ideas, the creation of higher wealth, and the creation of the overall better quality of life. Economic development is often defined by others based on what it is trying to accomplish. Many times these objectives include building or improving infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, etc. Improving our education systems, through new schools, enhancing our public safety through fire and police services, or new businesses to open a location in your community. That's my definition of economic development. Having explained economic development, I would like to talk about number 9B on your agenda. Public Safety Advisory Committee recommendations. As I stated 2 weeks ago, this council should not vote or rush to put this out for a referendum. We still do not have all the information needed or facts to have this council make any kind of rush judgment. Also, Mayor, I would like to hear the answer to your question. What would it cost a local contractor to build a 6,000 square foot police station on a cement slab? Please consider all these avenues before putting people in further debt with all the already high taxes they are paying. Thank you.
Thank you, Milo. Well done. Anyone else would like to speak? Going once, going twice. We'll bring the public forum part to a close. Thank you very much. 3A, discussion with Senator President Troy Jackson. Wow, what an honor.
Oh, no, not an honor. It's an honor for me. Thank you, Mayor Gahn, members of the Caribou City Council. I just wanted to stop. I've had a couple of times that I know members had asked me to stop to the council and take the opportunity to, address issues that you had, or any questions that you wanted to ask, any concerns you may have. I was going to be in Caribou today and thought I would, come to the council and certainly make myself available. This last session, it's been certainly a goal of mine to try and have the state make good on their commitments as far as money going back to the towns and cities in this state, hopefully for property tax reform. We moved revenue sharing up to 4% or going to 4% in the next year. We're still not at the 5% that we should be, but we've certainly increased that over the last couple of years, put more money into education funding. Once again, we're not at the mandated 55%, but we are, I think, at this point at 52%, getting closer to that goal. And we also put more money in the homestead exemption, which in addition to doing that, which I know sometimes is concerning to city and town officials, we moved the reimbursement to the community for up to, I think, 62.5% now. So it's an increase. It's for it doesn't come out of the businesses as much as it had in the past. So I definitely think that we tried to deliver a lot more to help with budgets that are stretched over the past couple of years, nowhere near close to where we're hoping to go, and I'm hoping to go, but certainly a commitment that I believe needs to be met, and we're going to continue to push that forward. But more than anything, I thought I'd stop and take any questions, concerns. We are trying to do things to create more opportunities for businesses, especially in University County. The McCrum facility over in Washburn, I think, is something that I'm very hopeful of, and that came from the town of Washburn letting me know that there was an opportunity to set up shop in Washburn. And so more than anything, I'm trying to make sure that people across University County know that if there's a hook there to get a new business that would be, providing good jobs and helping University County, I'd love to partner with the city to try and make that a reality, like we did, for the town of Washburn. So that's pretty much why I wanted to stop. I mean, certainly take. Like I said, any questions or concerns or complaints that Augusta needs to do better. But more than anything, just an opportunity to have that discussion and, try and work towards something better for Caribou and University County. So.
I appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
I'd like to inform the council that earlier in the week, I asked Dennis to put together a few of the questions and concerns that the council has talked about through the course of the year, and I would like Dennis to relay some of the concerns. If there's any concerns after Dennis is done by any of the council members, please feel free afterwards. But Dennis, would you mind?
So you've already touched on one of those, which was the revenue sharing. That's a big help this year as a city. Based on the law changes that were made last year, we were looking at another $170,000 of revenue, which is going to be a big help to our budget, but it is not the maximum amount that's prescribed. So certainly any help that we can get with increasing the revenue sharing would be a big one. There's been other discussion about the general repair of the roads and being able to get revenue from DOT to help with that. The local DOT office has been very cooperative, I would say, and especially this year we were able to finally get some work done on High Street, but there's many other roads in the urban compact zones that local cities just don't have the funds to be able to do the major repairs that are necessary for those highways in urban compact areas. And so that would be something else if we can get some help that way. But again, the local DOT has been very cooperative, and we appreciate their help with that. Other things that have been discussed by the council include expanding the broadband, the internet services. I know that's a big issue across the state. I think those are the three major ones that have been discussed by the council. If there's any others that you'd like to bring up.
Councilor Dave, I have a couple on
Sure.
the sheet. I went up and down the interstate 3 or 4 times in February, and for very good reason. And Mount Katahdin, that's when it's the prettiest. And I don't think it would cost a whole lot to keep that scenic area open year-round. Number 2, this is vacation land. I should be able to stop at a rest area and drink the water. I mean, you put a hand pump out there with good water, and I think you look around, it's beautiful, the trees are out, so don't drink the water.
Okay.
So I don't know how many rest areas we have.
There's significantly less. So that it, or
Yeah.
I didn't want to stop you. Yeah.
Drinking water.
So I know the Mount Katahdin rest area was a pretty big debate. I think back in 2010, Doug Thomas, who was in the House at that time, actually the department decided to close a number of them, that being one of them, and we had quite a bit of debate about that, and the department's decision was kept to close that one in the wintertime. Now, I don't know what the cost is to keep it open, but it's some amount that they felt that they needed to trim. We certainly can revisit that, but I know that it was debated in the legislature specifically for that one, because it is one that a lot of people think very highly of. But the department, like I said, in the cost-cutting measures, decided that that was going to be one of them. And there's a number of other ones. You can go down through all the way to Augusta and see there's 2 or 3 other ones that is closed on the I-95. And that,
only one Mount Katahdin.
yeah, no doubt. But they're going to say, fine, let us show us the money for that. But that's fine. And the water, that's a good suggestion that I probably never really considered, but I exactly know what you're talking about. I'm sure that's got a cost to it too, but I'm sure that's a lot less significant and something that probably should be manageable one way or the other. Getting back to Dennis's, the revenue sharing, the record is very clear for me throughout my time. I've voted against cutting revenue sharing. I voted against entire budgets that cut revenue sharing. I just think that that's a commitment that's been long-standing that needs to be met. And if I am back after this year, I'll continue to push to get that to where it's at. We should be at 5%. I never thought it should have been cut, and it certainly is part of areas of the state that have seen property taxes increase. A lot of times you could at least point to that as being part of the reason that they increased. And as far as the roads go, we are definitely challenged. And it's not just Aroostook County. You can go to a lot of parts of the state and see that roads and bridges are deteriorating. We're not keeping up. I don't think there's anyone that can say that we are. There is a task force right now that's meeting to try and come up with some of the solutions to that. I've been resistant personally to raising gas tax. I'm sure that I travel as much as anyone, and people that live long distances, rural Maine, I feel get hit disproportionately compared to other places. We have more electric cars that obviously aren't taking part and paying as much of that gas tax. So, but you know, something's going to happen because we can't keep bonding to keep our roads and bridges, you know, even at the level we are right now. So I don't know. You know, I just know it's a significant problem that I hear from colleagues around the state, and quite honestly, traveling around the state, I mean, you know, not every road is bad, but certainly every county's got bad roads in it. And so we're, you know, not keeping up. And then finally, you know, I just spoke to somebody over Tim Hortons just a minute ago about broadband internet. Chairman Gahn has been to my father-in-law's in Allagash. You know, we are literally at the end of the road, but they do a very good business because they have good internet and are able to sell all across, you know, the world because of it. And we need to do better in that regard, and that's not something that any one of us individually should have to bear the brunt of that. We should all have to as a state, I believe. And so, you know, we just came through a special session where we had a very modest proposal to try and help out with broadband, and we weren't able to get the votes to pass it. But we have another session coming up, and I can promise you that there will be funding for increased broadband next session, if it's a bond or a straight appropriation, because I do believe that is a significant problem across the state, across Aroostook County, and if we're going to compete and be able to attract people to rural Maine, we have to have better internet service. You know, I'm actually pretty happy with what I have, but I know a lot of people that don't have that type of service, and so, you know, I shouldn't be able to get any better service in any place in the state of Maine than anyone else. And so I am very much committed to making that happen this session coming up. And it, you know, I'm sure will be a modest, but we will put more effort into that, and we will continue to push forward to get better internet access. So that's just something that I'm very, very committed to doing next session. I know we can make it happen.
Any other counselors? Joan?
I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, boy.
Because I've got a question I've wanted an answer to for a
Sure.
long time. How come, and I don't know if it's still the case, but I think it is, how come that the towns, the cops do all the work, writing all the tickets, and we don't get any of the fine money?
You know, I honestly, I'm not 100% certain of
Apparently, there's
that.
no money that
Chief?
comes from the...
None?
No,
Not a nickel.
no. They do,
Okay.
and where's the incentive to even write a ticket? You
Uh-huh.
might get more money for the state if you shared some of it with the towns.
Uh-huh.
And this has been this way. I couldn't believe when I found out years ago that this. You should look into that.
Okay.
This
Well.
might be a two-way
Yeah.
thing that we could do.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely look into why. I mean, certainly, I mean, if obviously Jane does a registration or something here, at least you get a registration fee that comes back to the town. If somebody does a hunting license or fishing license, there's a registration. I mean, there probably should be at least something, but
It could be a few bucks. And
yeah,
they
yeah,
might
yeah.
get.
I mean, yeah, I'm such a fine, upstanding citizen. I
Yeah,
never
right.
get, I never get any fine, so I didn't know that.
Look into it.
But no, I definitely certainly
I think
try
a lot
and
of
find out.
people- I think a lot of people assume
Mm-hmm.
that the fine money goes to the towns.
Mhm.
When you get a ticket from a local police
Yep.
officer, that money but it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so.
Honestly, I think I did. I think I assumed that somebody that was caught in speeding, you know, in town by a town officer, but I didn't. I know I'm going to have to be very careful with the cell phone law that just passed. That's been challenging already.
Okay. Anybody else? Tom?
Troy, I own a firearm shop out at 910 Grimes Road. Don't try to email me because the internet's horrible.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
if you could fix that, that'd
Sure.
be great. But
I didn't hear where.
it's out on the Grimes Road.
Okay. Yeah.
Out
Yeah.
at the end of the Grimes Road. It's about 200 yards from the city line. I don't want to take a lot of time with this, but I got to know your stance on this red flag law.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think about it? What do you think the impact's going to be on? I know a lot of people downstate don't have as many firearms as we do up here. Maybe they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just going to, I mean, you're referring to as red flag law, and I mean, I realize what red flag laws are. We didn't pass a red flag. We passed what's sometimes referred to as a yellow flag, and that's more in line with what we already have with people that get blue papered for mental health issues, so that a judge actually does have to, sign off before the chief would actually, be able to go and confiscate. So I think it's much more in line with already common practices of judges have to make a determination that, there is an issue with somebody that, is not feeling well. We could have passed the red flag. I wasn't comfortable with that. A number of us, Senator Carpenter, chaired that committee and worked really, really hard to make something that he thought would be better, that would actually make sure that gun owners weren't put in a bad position, but still people that really did need services at a critical time, could be helped. And so I think that for people that are very concerned with what's going on in this country, probably not in the state, but in this country, we definitely moved a lot further on this issue than we have throughout my entire time, and I think we moved in a way that was legal, respected law-abiding citizens, but also gave the public some assurance that people that really were in crisis, someone that was experienced and understood it, could actually make a determination. So, I think there's people on both sides that aren't happy with what we did, but I think it was a good step, and to be honest, that was, as far as I was willing to go. So that's my stand, and like I said, I mean, that's as far as I was willing to go. But I did think that it was. I understood the blue paper law a little bit better, and I felt comfortable that there was times that that made sense and was appropriate.
Travis, do you have metal detectors in the high school? Would you be opposed to making some sort of legislation giving funding available to schools in the state of Maine to put in metal detectors?
I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I think it's a large number that might be hard to come up with, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why. I mean, the State House has metal detectors now. I would see no reason why.
Just about every government facility has metal detectors.
Yeah, so
except for our schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say, I mean, there'd be absolutely no reason I could think of at all ever why we wouldn't want to have them there, if we can, get the money to do it. But, it should be a priority. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and with the Alice training that you folks go through and what Chief Gahagan has done, we've done every steps, but there's always more that can be done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if anyone in the room has children now, but grandchildren. I mean,
yeah, I've got 3.
Yeah,
and it's a scary thought.
It is. Yeah, it sure is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone
else? Troy. My turn.
Okay.
Hey, we can use some help on our ambulance reimbursement from the state.
Yep.
Service communities are getting hit hard. And as more and more of the smaller communities require services, as we're looking through the numbers, it's kind of mind-boggling to how it can be solved. I understand that they're being worked on, But when we take the numbers that we're hearing that might be adjusted, it still doesn't come close.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and we're having an aging population. So as you go through the next year and things at the State House, could you please keep in mind
Sure.
the reimbursement
Yep.
of our ambulance service?
Yep.
And along with Tom's approach is that we've gone through a thing about trying to come up with a public safety building. And we all have come to a conclusion. I'm going to say the majority of people have said we have to do something with the police department. But we found that there's no grant money for police departments. I guess there was something for our fire departments, but I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
And anyways, in light of some of the shootings and some of the things that go on, and like what Tom says, I would think a good, strong presence of a police department in, once again, service communities, not that it would be helpful to us in our taxing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could,
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure the council would appreciate.
Yeah, so I didn't introduce, but right at the end, Max Rush, he's actually from Holton. He's writing everything down. So we'll definitely, Joan's comment, and we'll definitely look at, why or what the issue is with grants for fire stations, but not public safety, why that is. But definitely, I mean, you wouldn't know but for being there. The last night of session, LD 1350 and was it 980? One for rural hospitals, one for ambulance services. I was at the end where, I mean, I wasn't going to end the legislative session until we got funding for those two bills. Because I know it's important, and I know that there's still problems with the 911 service. Heard today, spoke to Ryan Pelletier a couple weeks ago about some of the things that are going on. We need both. We need hospitals and ambulance services here, and so it's been a priority. It'll continue to be a priority, and absolutely. And to be quite honest, if any of you, Dennis. Don't be afraid to reach out and explain that to me at times too. I don't pretend to understand it as well as maybe you are dealing with it on a more. But I mean, I know it's important, and I want to be part of the solution and be helpful in that regard, and I will. I mean, without a doubt.
One last. Anybody? Any further questions? Well, Troy, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yes?
It says public forum here for Mr. Jackson. Can we ask some questions?
There's a meeting right over in the library, in half an hour.
But it says public forum right here.
We did have a public forum, Wilford.
No, he's speaking right now. He's
Okay.
before us.
Yeah, like I said.
Can we ask him some questions?
No. What's that? No.
But he can't outside, or he can come over.
You
Yeah.
go right over to the library, Wilford, and
Then change the way you put out your agendas here.
okay.
So I'd just like to finish by saying that I know your meetings are on Monday nights, and while we're in session, it's incredibly challenging for me to be here on a Monday. But I certainly would take any calls from any of you, from Dennis, or and times during the off session. If need be, I'll make every effort to make him. But traditionally I go down Sunday night and don't come back until Friday or so. So forgive me for distance. So, and I appreciate the opportunity tonight, and do very much mean it. Any one of you, please don't think twice about reaching out to me.
You have a meeting in about half an hour across the street at the public library.
Yep.
For anyone
That'll
to
be the
come
second one today.
that attend. Do you have any plans for any future meetings in Caribou?
Actually, we do, the 23rd. Yeah. So, I mean,
Do you know where that will be held?
is that at that library also? 21st?
21st of October?
Yeah, public library on 21st.
Okay,
Yeah.
of October.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Troy.
Appreciate your time, seriously.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. He's got him. 3B, 3B, yeah, we gotta rewrite how this is done. Valerie Ann Walder-Marson.
Valerie looks different tonight.
Yes, Valerie is a little different tonight. Valerie is not
How
with
are
us.
you,
I am good. I am good. I am Travis Barnes, principal at Caribou High School, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to inform you on 2 upcoming dates that I think everybody in the community is anticipating and looking forward to. As most are well aware, on Wednesday at 9:57 a.m., Caribou native Dr. Jessica Muir will be fulfilling part of her future plans that she wrote in her yearbook and to go into space and take a spacewalk. So when we were made aware of her induction into that and being able to be a part of this Expedition 61 spaceflight, we also learned that there's an opportunity for organizations, schools included, to write a proposal and to get in what NASA dubs as an in-flight downlink with the International Space Station. So what we're really here to speak with you about tonight is October 29th, which is a very exciting day for our community, and when we will be able to link up with Dr. Jessica Muir from the Caribou Performing Arts Center and actually speak live with her on that day. There's some details that we're yet to work out, but I just want to take a few minutes of your time to talk to you a little bit about the proposal and the collaboration between the school and the city that took place to make this come to fruition for us. So there were several members that formed to write this proposal. I'd like to mention them because our proposal was so well written that not only were we granted one of these in-flight downlinks, that we did also receive communication from NASA that they will be using our proposal as an exemplar in future downlinks for schools and businesses and organizations that look forward to writing a proposal to hopefully get a downlink. And it's a competitive process. There were over 200 submissions for this next expedition, and they awarded 10. So we're pretty proud of that. So Jane McCall, Lisa Milliard, Shannon Sleeper, Valerie Walder-Marson, Maureen Connell, and Ronnie Belanger were all members from the RSU, and Christina Kane Gibson was the representative from the city. So as I mentioned before, and Christina will talk a little bit more detail in the press release that you have, but it will be an opportunity for us to actually view the space station, view Dr. Muir as she's there. It's about a 40-minute question and answer period. Students will be asking those questions. We're working on those with them right now, with students to what type of questions should be asked and those type of things. So we're very excited about that opportunity. We're also going to make it a day-long event at Caribou High School with grades 6 through 12, where students would be in workshop sessions on STEM-related activities, all the things that Dr. Muir has gone through to get to where she is in her career today. So, and Christina will talk a little bit further about that in a second, but we invite you all to be a part of that on October 29th. The window is right now from 9 to 11. NASA works on their time clock, and we will know more details on October 17th to the exact time, but we do extend the invitation for you to be there and be present that day if you so wish. Thank you.
So our press release will go out on Thursday of this week. we're also planning a month-long celebration in Caribou with some different stakeholders holding different events. Some of them are in there. I'm still working on some of the details for those. I just wanted you to have sort of see what's going on there. And then, like Travis mentioned, you each have an invite. If you'd like to be there on the 29th, just let Travis know. There's limited seating in the Performing Arts Center. But right now, our first event's going to be on October 3rd with NASA's Solar System Ambassador Program. They're going to be doing a program at the Rec. And then October 11th, Cary Medical Center is going to sponsor a Lego night. We're also working with the Nylander and the library on a few other initiatives. So we should have those very soon. But we're excited. Our press release goes out Thursday, but NASA's national level press release goes out a little bit closer to the 29th.
Locked me out, but I'm back.
Any questions for us? We'd love
Any
to see you
questions
guys
from the
there.
council?
And if you have any questions for Jessica, send them to us. We gotta
Yes.
send them to NASA.
We'd
so.
be happy to push something along.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the,
Thank you. It's good for everybody. It's not just good for the school. It's good for
Yeah.
the community. So,
yeah, congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a good win. Thank you. Item number 4. Council meeting held, the minutes for the council meeting held September 9th, 2019. Chair will entertain a motion. Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan, to accept the council minute meeting September 9th, 2019. Any corrections, additions, subtractions, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Minutes of the council meeting held August 19th, 2019. Chair will entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan, to accept the council minute meeting held August 19th, 2019. Any corrections, additions, subtractions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 5, financials. The August financial report.
Mayor and council, you have in your packet at the end of August, as far as our expenses are concerned, just to scroll down to that for you. General expenses year to date are at 65.8%, and so we're trending right about where we need to be as far as the budget year. Revenues, we're at 82%. Again, much of that is with the tax bills that went out, and then having those numbers comes in. We do have some departments that are trending higher than anticipated for the year, such as code enforcement, which is at 150% right now. Also, the airport is at 123% for now, and so those are looking good. Also, just to highlight that the fire and ambulance department, right now most of the departments that would be the big concerns are trending above the anticipated revenue lines, and so we're hopeful that we'll come in above budget with our revenues at this point for the year.
Any questions? Paul?
Email me each department, the breakdown.
I believe I did. So, yeah, I will get it.
Anyone else? Chair will entertain a motion to accept the financial report for August.
Move to accept the financial report for August.
Second.
Moved by Joan, seconded by Dave to accept the financial report. Once again, any more comments, questions, or answers? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 6, bid opening awards and appointments. There are none. Number 7, public hearing and possible action. acceptance of the 2019 CDBG funds for a transportation coalition study. This is for action. This isn't a public hearing.
It is a public hearing?
Oh, it is a public hearing.
Yes.
Well, then we will open the would you mind just give us a brief before we do the public hearing part?
So as we did for the CDBG funding for the economic development grant early on, we have to have a public hearing and then council action to be able to accept money for a CDBG project. In this case, it's the public service program that we were lucky enough to be invited to the second round. The city is applying on the behalf of Cary Medical Center for a transportation-related project. Basically, it's a project that would, using technology, be able to dispatch rides to the last mile of our region. So the project's called the Caribou Area Personalized Transportation System. It involves the purchase of software in order to be able to do the dispatch of these rides. The rides would come from existing sources like ARTS, like the RSVP rides that are done by volunteers from retired persons. Any agency that offers rides to people that are mobility impaired, elderly people that may be stuck at home, not able to get out, isolated, or disabled people. So basically the thought is to hire one person. The one person will be in charge of running the program, doing the dispatching and using the software, and also reaching out to all these other entities. Again, that we were invited into the second phase of this. Thought it was pretty good. The city of Caribou came up with 2 of these programs for 1 year. Then at this time, we got to figure out whether or not, as a community, we want to accept those funds on Cary Medical Center's behalf.
Any questions before I open up the public hearing? Ken, I thought we already won the money. Run the award.
Well, as it turns out, such as the economic development program for the Port Revere project, we have to have a public hearing for each program that receives funding.
Mayor, you're right. We've been awarded the funds, but now we have to actually accept the funds. And so the hearing tonight is whether or not to actually accept the award that is offered to us.
Okay. Okay.
The amount of the grant is $38,000. There'll be some in kind, which will be my time. I'll serve on the board.
Okay. Oh, Tom, I'm sorry.
It's through the State Office of Community Development.
So the state's going to basically give us the $36,000.
They're federal dollars administered by the state, so the state has to deal with all the federal strings that are attached to it, but it comes through their office.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
The chair will open a public hearing on this item of accepting the 2019 CDBG funds at 6:44. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this?
My hearing's off tonight, and I can't hear you people at all, so don't mind me if I jump in and I make a mistake. We're on number 8, old business of adopting ordinances and resolutions.
No.
Number 8.
We're on 7A.
7A. Oh, okay. Acceptance of 2019. Yeah, these. What's the Transportation Coalition funds? What's the coalition fund? Transportation Coalition. What does it entail?
Funds that are, if I understand this right, funds that, as Dennis said, originated from the federal government to the state, to the community, to be used for a project that Cary Medical Center and the city have, correct me if I'm wrong, that have put together to help people that need rides to, like, the doctor and maybe nutritional centers.
Buy him a van or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. So that, Caribou doesn't have to match that fund or anything.
To my knowledge, no.
So
Is
I
that
mean, there's
correct,
no
Ken?
increase in taxes over it?
No.
No.
No. Okay. You made me happy once. Now, we'll go to other business, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Wilford. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Hearing none, I close the public hearing at 6:46. Okay. Now we're going to go to number 8. 8A. New business, alcohol license for the Warehouse Bar and Grill at 14 Evergreen Parkway. Dennis, there's a story here, wasn't there? They were getting bigger? Okay, I might have misunderstood what I...
It's not the Bar and Grill, it's the Warehouse Bar and Grill.
Oh, I apologize. I meant to say warehouse. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
And they have
I go to the Bar and Grill apparently too much, I guess.
It's a renewal of their liquor license, and the chiefs and there's a health officer, the police chief, and the code enforcement officer have signed off on it.
Okay.
And it's a renewal.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Jody, to renew the license for the Warehouse Bar and Grill at 14 Evergreen Parkway. Any last questions?
I just got one. Have we had any, are the parking problems been?
No, we haven't had any issue.
No issues with not being able to get through or anything that's been, okay.
Let's see, it's been a motion, it's been seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 8B, discussion regarding city fee schedule. Dennis.
Mayor and council, we wanted to try to compile all of the fees that the city charges and put it into one document so that we can be more transparent to the citizens. The list that's been provided tonight, this is a first read just so that you can get a look at what the fees are. There are some fees that we wanted to just highlight and have some discussion with you. We can do it tonight or another night if you'd like. Some of those that are highlighted in red in the table include the airport hangar, the main hangar. We don't currently have an annual rate for somebody to be in that main hangar, and so we're recommending that we adopt one for $2,800. Also, we don't currently have an annual office lease rate at the airport. Right now, we're just showing that it would be negotiable. There's been some changes in the state law that allow us to charge additional funds in the clerk's office for things like motor vehicle renewals. And so we're recommending that we increase those to the maximum allowable under the state law. It would, for instance, if it's a resident in Caribou that renews their vehicle, we can go from a $3 fee to a $5 fee. And Connors would go from $4 to $6. We also would recommend increasing the fees for vital record searches and also lineage verifications. The building permits, we currently charge $50 a flat fee for any and all building permits. Our tax assessor, Penny Thompson, is also our building official, and she included in the packet for you a breakdown of the time that we spend on different building permits. For instance, let me just jump down to her memo really quick. So for a typical residential building permit, our staff spends close to 10 hours of their time doing the plan inspections, the site inspections, following up. And one of the concerns that I have is that with these building permits, while we want to see more building permits and we appreciate the tax revenue that would come with them, we're also highly subsidizing the applicants that come in. And so the suggestion is that we reconsider our building permit fees and maybe look at increasing those so that it's not being so highly subsidized for the services that we're providing. For instance, a residential new construction, a new home, we would be spending close to $330 of time actually working in the processing and the paperwork and the site inspections. And so that creates a subsidy of $280. Again, it's when you look at the future taxable or the tax impact that can be brought in with new permits, it doesn't seem like much. Looking at residential remodels, the same thing. It's we recommend $250. Commercial new, it requires a little bit more involved. And so again, just want to look at the fee structure that we have, making sure that from the city standpoint, the services we're providing are being covered as necessary. I guess it's a personal philosophy of mine that if somebody's coming in, they should be paying for the services that we're rendering to them, and not necessarily having everybody pay for those services on their behalf. But that's a discussion for you to take up. Currently, we have a demolition permit fee that is $25. It's actually waived if people come in advance. And according to our building department, we've had a lot more response, more positive response toward that. People are coming in and actually getting their demolition permits. But again, there's a cost associated with demolition permits and being out and monitoring things. We could still certainly waive that fee if they come in ahead of time, but in a sense, if they don't get that permit fee, we might be able to charge it. It almost becomes as a penalty at that point. So one of the other things just wanted to highlight under the fire and ambulance department, this is a breakdown of the different codes that they charge. But we would like to look at, starting in 2020, if we're going to be providing service to a non-mutual aid community, that we charge a flat rate of $500. That would generally covers our time and costs associated with responding to those communities. Also, if we go to a community that we may already have a contract with to provide that service, oftentimes we might go out on a response but not actually transport the patient. And where we don't transport, then we get no reimbursement or no compensation for our time. And so we'd like to look at being able to send a bill to those communities if we do not transport. Again, there's the ability to recoup our costs in providing those services to them. There's overall, it's 2.5 pages worth of fees. I know, again, there's sometimes concerns about we charge too much or we charge for too many things. But again, it's the ability for us to recoup costs and not have to put all of those burdens on the taxpayers as a whole. But tonight we wanted to bring it to you for general discussion. If there's other things that you see we maybe want to look at or revisit, we can do that.
Okay. Is that fine? Done?
I'm done.
Okay. Dave?
Yes, could you explain residential remodel? I was under the understanding that if you didn't change the floor plan, you did not need a permit. If I'm going to redo my kitchen, I need a permit?
It depends on the extent of your remodel. If you are going to be changing your plumbing, you have to get a a plumbing permit. If you're just going to be redoing the floors, changing the cabinets, as far as the faces, doing some painting work, then no, you don't need a permit for those.
So new roof, new siding?
The new roof, it depends on the extent of the remodel of the roof. If you strip it all down, then you would have to get a permit. If you're just going to do an overlay shingling job, then you wouldn't. And all of that is dictated by the international, well, by MUMEC, the main municipal building code that we've adopted.
Thank you. Joe?
What is a shellfish surcharge?
Ken, you know, I think it has something to do with the shoreland.
I don't believe it is shoreland. I think that is more a licensure type of thing for restaurateurs that may have shellfish on their menu. I think that's an extra fee.
It's a plumbing permit.
I've never come across it except for on this list.
Fees for plumbing.
It's under the fees for plumbing permit.
It's a state tax because all water runs to the ocean.
And
Is
not-
that what that is?
That's what it is.
And not every time when they get a plumbing permit, is there a, do we collect those fees? Is there a shellfish surcharge? You see it says full system external only. So,
Okay.
Tom? Oh, I'm sorry, you
No,
done,
I
Joe?
don't know.
Tom?
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I just said that's weird.
Yes, yes, it is. So, with all of these additional fees, I mean, let's say I'm gonna remodel a commercial space, or I want to build a commercial space. What does all this buy me? I mean, what's our end goal here? I mean, I thought this was a service that we provided to the citizens of Caribou. Because if I'm going to go add on to a commercial space or build a new commercial building, I don't want to spend $450. I'm trying to keep costs down. What's Presque Isle charging? What's Fort Fairfield or anyone? What's stopping them, a business owner, coming into this town and saying, I can pay $450. I mean, I'm a cheap farmer. And the apple didn't fall far from the tree. $450 is $450. So
Right.
what's this going to buy me, guys?
Again, that's some of the debate of the conversation that we need to have with you as a council. Is it a true service that we're going to go out, we're going to do all your inspections, we're required to provide those by state law, and we're not getting any funding from the state to help in the cost of managing that service,
Go chase down Troy. He's across the street. Tell him we need some funding.
right? There's a lot of unfunded mandates that we've talked about as far as dictates from the state, and so it's a question of recognizing that some of these things, they're going to provide us more tax revenue in a year than maybe that building permit. And if that's the case, and we're willing to say $50 permit is good enough, then that's fine. I just wanted to make sure the council was aware that there are costs associated with providing those services, as you say.
Have those costs gone up in the past 10 years? I mean, I know cost of living and all that stuff, but I mean, I'd really like to think this through before we start slapping on. I mean, commercial new, that's an extra $400. So I'd like to see what surrounding towns are doing
Yeah.
as far as.
And Penny has in the packet, you'll find that she has an outline of all the communities around us and what they're charging.
Yeah, I saw it.
And again, this is not for adoption tonight, just as something to get the discussion started. With a commercial remodel or commercial new, there's plans that have to be reviewed, building codes have to be looked at, plumbers, consulting or contracted employee has to be brought in, and all of those things are costs. But if the council's okay with just providing those as a service, and we're okay with the subsidizing of those, then we keep the fees at 50. If we believe that, anyways.
I mean, to me, it would make sense to, depending on how big, if somebody's going to come in here and put in, you know, like some of these coolers that I've seen in my life, I mean, they're a quarter-mile long. They're insanely big. Obviously, that's going to take a heck of a lot more time on somebody than, let's say, a 2,500 square foot cooler.
Sure.
So, I mean, I could see that maybe. But just arbitrarily throwing out $450, it's, you know, that's kind of how I feel about that deal. I mean, I think we should really look to see where we're spending our time and what goes on, what Ken has to do, what Penny has to do, what Tony has to do if he's involved. I mean, you know, at one point you had Dave running around there, you know, doing certificate of occupancies.
Yeah, and we certainly could structure a fee. We could have a fee structure that, based on the square footage or the valuation of the construction, the fee could be modified based on those things. We could do that. Most cities have some tiered system like that.
Jody.
I'll just briefly, talking about the building permits. When I was on the previous council, I was one of the supporters of dropping it to the $50 fee and not going through the similar to, I don't know if we were doing the square footage. We were doing it by square footage previously.
Square footage.
And then Prescott was doing it by price per square foot. Was that the difference? And I personally would not support raising those prices, and I'll hold to that. Maybe some of the other ones we could look at, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
If I might just add,
Go ahead.
with regards to the building permit fees, the structure that we had in place prior to the $50 flat fee, we were getting, I think, about $16,000 in revenue a year. When we went to the $50 flat fee, we're now down to less than, averaging around $5,000 a year. Again, it's not much, but it's something to be thinking about.
Joan.
Well, I was just going to make a comment to that. I think, if I remember correctly, we also lost some buildings being built because of the fees, the building permit fee schedules as well. I know at least one. I think it was a fairly large packing shed or something. They went to Limestone or another town. If I remember correctly, that was an issue. That's why this
Okay. I'm going to piggyback on Jody's comments. I think we ought to have as many homes built and as many commercial buildings built, and we're already paying taxes, and somehow if someone wants to invest some money that will be taxed on a yearly basis, that they ought to be kept at a minimum. So I guess just so we can, if it does come on the agenda, we would take different sections of this and vote on them, because some of them I have no problem with. So I guess we'll have to discuss on how we'll vote on it when it does come up for a final vote.
I was going to say, please don't let those building permits deter what you might do with the increases that are over here in motor vehicle. The increase to the re-registration for both Caribou and Connor, or just the search for vital records and the lineage verification. Most everything else I have in my office is set by statute.
One of those, I believe you said, was one of those increases. The lineage verification is, we don't have a choice on that, right?
No, those two, lineage verification and the vital records search, those are strictly Caribou. And lineage verification is when I go to the vault and I look up, you want to get your grandmother's birth certificate. You have to prove to me through records that she's your grandmother. So you might have your birth certificate, but I need to look up your mother or father if I have it in the vault, so you can get your grandmother's. And that's what a lineage verification is. And the state Vital Records recommends that we do not do this without there being a fee. And we've been $2 since 2010, and it's just going up in the 9 years to $1 more. And this vital record search, that is genealogy, doing research. And if I do the search, we charge $5, whether or not I find the record or not, because I've done the search. And we just would like to increase that. I modeled that after another community, and that community's gone from $5 to $6. The other two down here for the renewal rates for motor vehicle, those went into effect on the 19th. And those could be increased anytime because the law went into effect that allows us to do that increase. So. Don't let building permits deter you from my little areas.
And if there's a general consensus to not change the building permit fees, I'm not going to buck that. That's your prerogative as a council to choose that. I just wanted to make sure that you had the information as far as the impact that service is having.
Okay. When it comes up, if we could vote on like airport, and then we'll vote on the clerk's office, and then we'll do each one separately.
However you'd like to do that, that'd be fine.
Okay. And there was no changes like in the library? Well, no?
No.
Rec department, police department, rec center? Yeah, we don't want to go down that road. Tax assessment. Okay.
So one thing you'll notice, and you might have some questions on it, you'll see that there are different fees for copies between the library and City Hall and the rec center. Those facilities have different printers, different copiers. They have different lease rates. And also we're trying to discourage interruption of operations at City Hall by charging a little bit more.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dennis. Number 8C, discussion regarding DOT request for overweight limit permit on Otterbrook Bridge project. Dennis.
We received a notice from the state that they're going to be replacing the bridge over Otterbrook, which is you're traveling north toward Van Buren. You'll see it past the bypass. And they would like to know if we're okay issuing an overweight limit permit to them in the event that their equipment needs to run across city roads where they might be hauling materials in. I talked with Dave Willett, our Public Works Director. The indication is we don't anticipate that any of their vehicles will be coming across local roads where they have direct access from the bypass area. So we recommend that the council approve this tonight.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to give a overweight limit permit to Otterbrook Bridge project. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Close enough. Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 8D, E, and F. Automatic, we'll go with D, automatic mutual aid agreement for fire services with Limestone. Please explain that.
We currently have mutual aid agreements with Limestone, Fort Fairfield, Washburn, and Presque Isle, and some of the communities around us. What that means is if they get called out to a fire within their community and they need backup, then we get the alarm and we then roll if need be, or they put us on notice that we may need to back them up in their town if something else starts to happen. Those are mutual aid agreements. These are automatic mutual aid agreements. What that means is that if there's a fire call that goes out, we get it at the same time. So we are instantly put on notice of the need to maybe help respond or to be there for backup purposes. So from a budgetary standpoint, there's no difference of cost to us. It does help speed up the process of fire protection services. And the indication is that by having automatic mutual aid agreements in place, that the homeowners and the residents of the communities that are served, they can contact their insurance providers and may be eligible for additional discounts to their insurance costs. So we're recommending that the council authorize me to move forward with these agreements. It is on for a first read tonight. If you want to continue to look over them, you can to the next meeting. But we feel pretty confident these will be a good thing for the city, and I'm recommending moving forward with them.
Question.
Jody?
Because these are mutual aid agreements, and in the fee schedule of the non-mutual aid community ambulance charge $500. How many non-mutual aid communities do we have? I mean, around, they're currently mutual aid, these three?
They are mutual aid for fire services, not for ambulance services. Right. That's the difference from the fee schedule.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying. This is just fire.
Yes.
Perfect.
Just fire.
I would have no problem if we were to vote on it tonight. Anybody have an issue about voting on it tonight? Well, Chair will entertain a motion to, so what are we going to do? We're going to sign an agreement for mutual aid for fire services with Limestone. Is that correct? Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we do automatic mutual aid agreements with Limestone, Fort Fairfield, and Washburn. And Prescott. Prescott was not listed here.
We did not have the Prescott agreement when the packet was made. I do have it on my desk upstairs, though, and it's the same language.
And Prescott.
Oh, okay, that's...
Okay. So we are now doing items 8D, 8E, and 8F with this motion, and I guess Prescal.
And there may be others. If I guess the recommended motion I had in the packet was if just authorize me to enter into any similar agreements, if you're okay with that.
I'll amend my motion to do that.
But if you want them to come back to you for one quick review before we do that, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. So what do we, where are we now? Okay. We are going to have a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into mutual aid agreements with other communities. Is that how I understood it? For fire service?
Automatic mutual aid agreements.
Okay. Would someone please state this motion? Dave, go ahead. You seem to be on a roll to understand it.
If the council, it is recommended that the city manager be authorized to execute automatic mutual aid agreements and similar agreements with other responding towns.
Motion's been made by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joan. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. 9, item number 9A, resolution 0901-2019, accepting the 2019 CDBG funds for a transportation coalition study. Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to accept. Second.
Moved by Joan, seconded by Nicole, to accept the funds for the Transportation Coalition Study. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 9B, Public Safety Advisory Committee recommendations. You have a copy of the recommendation in your packet. It was a first. Well, I don't know if it was a first read, but we took it up at the last city council meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the public. Now, wait a minute now. How did I say that? Wait a minute. Let me find it. Please be patient. Page 42. Okay. It is recommended that the council acknowledge the efforts of the Citizens Committee by accepting the final recommendation with the understanding there was a minority opinion of the committee that the study of additional options should be conducted. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor Gong, I have no problem with acknowledging the work of the committee and sending out a letter. But I think there are new options that have come up. So I think the accepting their recommendation or not should be taken. If we accept their recommendation, we're saying we're going to build at Birdseye a fire station that can be added on to. That's what their recommendation was. So I'd like to table that part of it and just acknowledge their efforts and that we are looking at other options.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Good motion.
Second.
Moved by Dave and seconded by Joan. Tommy.
From my understanding, this is just a recommendation. We can do, as a council, now that some other things have come up, we can do what we see fit. Correct?
Yes.
But there's a difference between saying we don't like your plan and we don't want to accept it and saying we think we have something better.
Well, but it's still a recommendation.
Exactly.
We don't have to decide either way. Hey, I like it, I don't like it.
Exactly.
You know.
That's why we table it.
So, well, for me, I just don't see why we need to table it. Just get this done and out of the way. I mean, it's a recommendation. To me, in my mind, the committee met. There was a majority and minority. Everybody had their say. Everybody was very vocal about it, but it's a recommendation, and it falls onto us 7 to decide which is the best course of action for the city. Now, later on, if this year, next year, 20 years from now, we send it to referendum, we send it to referendum. We send it up to, but it's just a recommendation. And yes, so we're basically saying, we heard you, we understand your concerns, and when this new information comes to light, then this is also what we have on the table, So for me, I mean, I don't mind tabling it. It's whatever, but I just think it's still a recommendation and just get this off our plate.
But we set up a committee and asked this group to come up with a recommendation, and we should accept it or not accept the recommendation. And I'm saying let's wait because we have new information.
So are we going to send that new information back to this committee?
Not necessarily.
Okay. No. Just gonna get it off our plate, but sure.
Any other comments or questions? Now, Dave made a motion. Who seconded it? Joan seconded.
That motion just to
Table it.
just table it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge.
To table it?
Yeah. Take no action tonight until we hear the new information. It may make a difference.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I have the motion as acknowledge their work and send a letter of thanks and to table the acceptance of their final recommendation.
Right. That's right.
Well, the next item is that acknowledgement, I guess.
We're going
So
to,
we can do that separate.
I had that all as one motion.
Or do it all at once, whatever. Yeah. Let's vote on the two. As you've written it.
Yeah. Acknowledge their work and send a letter of thanks, and to table the acceptance of their final recommendation.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I want to vote for one, but I don't want to vote for the other. So if I vote no, then I'm voting to say, well, thanks for showing up, guys, but we were, I don't care that you participated. I'd rather, if we're going to table.
I'll amend my motion to table item 9B.
And I will amend my second.
Sorry, Jane.
So table 9, to table the acceptance of their recommendation.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
I was willing to vote to accept their recommendation as it was written in the package, based on what Tommy said, that it's just a recommendation. They did acknowledge that additional options should be conducted, and I think Dave mentioned that there are new options available, maybe. I would like to say that at the public hearing last council, I was very much in agreement with some of the comments that Milo and Wilford and John and Bruce and who else? Well, there were some people that made some comments that I was that I agreed with very strongly, and I thought that this recommendation would have covered those comments that were made. But we're going to table it, is the motion, and I can make that when if it comes up for a vote again. I would like to thank them, though. I mean, but we'll see.
We're not making a decision either way.
That's the next item, I think.
Yeah, right.
We're not making a decision.
Okay. Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of Dave's and Joan's motion? Oh, I got to think here now. Well, even...
You don't have to, Mark, it's not gonna pass.
It's not?
No, it'd be 3-3. If you support, it's 3-3 and it doesn't pass.
Okay. Chair will entertain another motion.
So the other three voted no.
I'm going to vote no. I'm going to go with my original.
No.
No.
Okay, but he didn't call it.
That's right. I did not. I'm torn here. I'm torn.
Yeah, Joan's right. It's not going to pass
It's not
either
going to
way.
pass either way, because three voted yes, 3 voted no, so it's not going
Right.
So we're kind of
to, unless somebody.
Well, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the recommendations of the committee.
I second that.
But you can't second it, he's looking for it.
Yeah.
So move that.
But what the recommendation here, or what's written here, is not what was recommended. What was recommended was to do, there was nothing about minority reports or this and that. So if we're going to accept their recommendation, we're going to build a bird's eye. And I don't want to get into semantics.
What if we just accept the report as written,
Okay,
and the decision
I'm good.
is left to the council?
That's good.
That's my motion.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to accept the report as written. It was Nicole made the motion,
And leave it to council.
and who seconded? Tom seconded. Any comments or questions?
And the decision remains with the council. Is that what you're?
Correct.
Is that how it ended, Nicole? Okay.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we go to 8C, Letter of Appreciation to the Public Safety Facility Advisory Committee participants. Chair will entertain a motion. The letter was in your packet.
Accept.
Moved by Joan, seconded by Jody to send the Public Safety Citizens Advisory Committee a letter of thank you for their time and effort spent on the report. That concluded with a report. Any discussion or comment? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Discussion and possible action regarding the RFQ for public safety architectural services. This is a first read, as I understood it, when we went over the packet.
We can treat it that way.
Okay. Okay.
And Mayor, I would actually suggest maybe we not take action on this until after we have an executive session to discuss some real estate issues.
Okay. So we will discuss item 9D in executive session regarding the real estate negotiations or whatever it is all about. Okay. Are we expecting to have a vote after the executive session?
Probably just direction, but not a vote.
Okay.
Can you explain that material for us to see if it's executive session material?
It's my understanding that somebody would like, how do I say it?
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The 9D itself is not executive session material, but there is other discussions that need to take place with the council regarding real estate matters, which could affect what happens with 9D and how the wording of that is phrased. And so it would be postponed until after executive session to have additional discussion on it.
Will you, before you vote on it, on anything, are you going to explain exactly what happened in executive session?
We won't.
Or who you? This really isn't executive session material. You're dealing with what are you dealing with here? An architect?
No.
You're hiring for this job?
This,
No.
okay.
No, we're not dealing with an
Well,
architect.
explain what it is. We are going into executive session for.
I believe someone's made an offer, and we're just going to take it under consideration in the negotiation process.
But what kind of offer on what?
It's a first read, and before anybody votes on anything, it will all be stated and understood. It's just the start of negotiating some real estate. Right? Did I go too far there?
No.
It's just that.
Something doesn't sound right with this whole thing, I'll tell you.
Well, I can assure you, Wilford, it's all about board.
Go ahead, but it still doesn't. This
You'll
is
know
executive session material.
Well, what I've been told, I believe it is, and but I will guarantee you, nobody's going to vote on it unless you know about it. I guarantee you that. It's just we got to work our way through it.
Okay.
So we're going to move on now to 9E, discussion and possible action regarding the airport lease renewal with the weather station. Dennis.
Mayor and council, we have a lease with the Weather Service. They don't actually own the ground that they sit on. They lease that from the city. According to several federal acts, the federal government has the right to be on the municipal airport to conduct aviation-related services, such as the Weather Service, and we cannot charge them for it. And so the lease that we have with the Weather Service basically outlines the area that they can occupy, and it's for $1 a year, and the term is for 20 years. We've had one for the past 19 years. The current lease agreement expires in 2021, so this is a little ahead of that, but their land department is anxious to make sure they have something in place with the Weather Service for another 20 years.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Dave to renew the airport land lease agreement with the Weather Service. Any comments or questions, statements? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Was that to authorize the city manager to sign?
Yes, I'll
Thank you. I
include that.
clarified it, thank you.
9F, discussion possible action regarding the airport land lease renewal with Tom Getz.
Mayor and Council, Mr. Getz leases a small portion of the airport property just north of the main hangar. He's built a private hangar on the ground, and the city leases that to him for $138 a year. It's the lease agreement is currently a 20-year agreement similar to the Weather Service, but this agreement states that at the end of the expiration, it is an automatic renewal for another 20-year period. And so Mr. Getz is asking, is the city interested in renewing his lease agreement? If the city is interested in not renewing this agreement, then we have obligations to purchase his hangar from him at market value. At this time, based on appraisal services and the timeliness of being able to get something done, this is not a crucial time that we take action on this right now. We could probably wait until the spring of next year before we make a final decision on it. It's so far, Mr. Getz has been a good tenant. He's paid the funds. He's paid his property taxes that he's owed on the shed itself and the excise tax on the airplane. And we don't see any concerns with renewing it, but we don't have to do it right now. And we'd recommend that this be tabled until next year when the sitting council at that time can take action in a more timely fashion.
So he's only paying a lease on the property?
He only pays a lease on the property. Pays a property tax on the hangar itself.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Clarifying that.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to accept or to renew the lease with Tom Getz at the airport.
No. Move to table until May of 2020,
Second.
That's fine.
which is the recommendation of the manager.
Sorry about that.
Unless you want to renew it, but I think we can wait.
Oh, okay. No, if that's what you recommend. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions?
I don't know who seconded it.
Dave and Joe.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Introduction of Ordinance 3, 2019, General Assistance Rates.
We'll defer to Jane on this one.
Every year in the fall, we need to look at our general assistance rates to keep our program in compliance with the state. And I've got in front of you the changes that are necessary to keep us in compliance. And so we're still be able to get reimbursed at the rate of 70% of our expenses. This tonight, it is by ordinance, so this is only an introduction. I'd ask if somebody would introduce it, and it would be scheduled for a public hearing for the 15th of October. And the biggest change, honestly, is the funeral maximums. This is the first time there's been any increases in the funeral maximums since I started doing general assistance in 2010.
I'd like to introduce ordinance number 3, 2019 CDBG. An ordinance amending chapter 17, general assistance.
Thank you. Could I have,
Did someone second it?
I
You
think we just
introduced
have
it.
to introduce it.
You don't second
but would you schedule the public hearing for the 15th?
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the 15th of October on the ordinance I just introduced.
Second that.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Jody. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. City managers report.
High Street's the top of the list on the manager's report. If you have specific questions about that, Dave's here. We do have the 1 inch of shim coat on there to help smooth everything out. And maybe quickly, Dave, the timing on getting the other parts of it.
I think the next step in the process is to put the curbing on each side so the sidewalks can be built. And then crews will be working this week to get infrastructure back in place, sewer covers, storm drains, water shutoffs will be lifted. And I expect that we could see the second layer by the end of next week, which would be probably an additional 2 inches on top of what's there. And then the surface of the sidewalks to follow shortly after. So 3 weeks, that project should be wrapped right up. I expect it to be done before this, but it's funny how one little incident can back everything up. And as, for example, we went out for a contract and we said we needed a milling machine for this period. The step before that, the DOT actually extended the contract 2 weeks. He was another week and a half beyond that. That went beyond the time that the grinder was supposed to come. The grinder finally comes, but because he's so late, Trombley's paving was already in a contract with the DOT, so it all snowballed into a month and a half longer than it should have been. But it started with just a little mistake in the beginning. But it's coming fairly nice. We did it on Saturday. We were in early so that we could try to minimize some of the traffic. And I expect we'll be about the same amount of time we put the final coat on, because whether they put 1 inch or put 2 inches, it's the same process. It's about the same amount of timing. So pretty large improvement in what we have so far. I'm anxious to get the second part done. When you put asphalt down in layers like that, so if you'd have put the full 3 inches, you'd have had a 60% ride control. By putting it in 2 layers, your first layer is still done 60% for smoothing it out, but you'll probably go to 90 to 92% by the time you put a second layer on. So that's why it's always better to go with 2 layers when you have something as rough as that was. But overall, everything looks like it's running true to cost. I don't think we'll have no overruns. If you have any specific questions, I could probably answer them.
Okay. The 2020 budget, we're in the process now. The departments have already submitted their capital request to me, so I'm compiling that. They also have their detailed lines they'll be working on. Want to definitely give some kudos to Gary and Christina on the success of the marathon once again. Christina, do you want to report on that just quickly?
We were just under 500 runners total. It was about 465 with the kids included. I have really only heard positive feedback. We did send out our survey. So our runner survey, we'll be getting those back. And then after we get those results, we'll have a recap meeting. But all in all, I think everything went to plan. Only had one car drive through this time, so progress.
I do need the next line, the wage and classification policy. Well, sorry, let me jump back up to the cable franchise renewal. We do need to have that on an agenda very soon to discuss. There's been some changes at the federal level with the Federal Communications Committee, and it's going to affect what happens with our cable franchise renewal agreement. And so we need to have that, if we can, on the next agenda for at least executive session for discussion. Also, where we're at in the budget process now, we need to have a meeting of the Personnel Committee. And Councillor Cody, I believe you're the chair for that, if we can get that called. I know you're busy at work, but if we can get that called soon so we can go over those items, that would be good as well. The LED conversion, there are apparently a handful of lights that we're waiting on mast arms for in order for those to be installed, but they expect that will be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks as well. The Sewell engineers have done a first inspection on the fire EMS building, looking at the roof and some of the structural issues that were raised by our insurance provider, and we hope to get more information from them on that. This Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. is the visioning session with regards to the general plan. That will be hosted at the Recreation Center, and everybody's invited to come out to that. We definitely want to make sure we get a lot of public input to that and looking at what is the vision that we have for the future. They'll be looking at many facets of the general plan, from land uses to agriculture and industry, economic development, trails, parks, a lot of different aspects. And so I encourage everybody to come out to that. The 60 Access Highway, the tenants were all notified of the potential change in ownership. And right now the hospital district is considering options for the building. The council last meeting directed to wait and hold off on sending that out as with a brokerage until we've had some more time to look at that. And so the next city council meeting, we should have some more information for you on 60 Access. I was contacted just this afternoon by another potential purchaser of the building that's interested in it. So I know we've had 3 in addition to the hospital that are interested in the building. The Bird's Eye cleanup, I was notified this morning that we received our final check from the Northern Border Region Commission, and that was our last $5,000 to help with the Bird's Eye cleanup. And we also had a conversation with the EPA on our brownfield grant, and we met with Dave Hopkins from CES this morning to discuss updating our environmental records and documents so that we can make application for the brownfield funds again. I think those are the main ones that I wanted to highlight, unless you have questions on anything else that's on the list. I should also, I guess, say with regards to the Maine Municipal Association Conference, which is going to be next week, we heard from one of you, Councillor Gahn, Mayor Gahn, is interested in going down. Didn't hear from anybody else. So at this point, we'll just plan a long car ride down, Mayor and I. Okay.
Collins Pond Dam project.
Mm-hmm.
Are people caring that the pond isn't there? I mean,
Yes.
are you getting complaints?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just
And
wondering.
Since I wrote the manager report, Gary he did send out a request for engineering services. The state was telling us we had to have it engineered. We did send that out to local engineering firms and received 2 responses. The response that came back, we had 2 one from CES out of Presque Isle and one from, I forget what his,
AVS Incorporated, which is Shane McDougal in town here.
and so they both submitted resumes and cost proposals for us to look at. And Shane McDougal, his cost was quite a bit less than CES, and we'll continue moving forward with the design of that reconstruction with him. The state also indicated to us that if we build in a ladder, fish ladder, is that the right term?
Fishway, yep.
A fishway,
Yep.
that they may have some additional funding to help in the reconstruction of the dam. So we're looking at those options as well.
Can we be looking at dredging that pond also? I mean, even if you fix the dam, the water will be, what, a foot deep?
Well, the plan right now is to put 2 more feet of water in the pond, which would cover up what you see now. Preliminary numbers for dredging is in excess of $1 million to dredge that pond. So there's lots of money that needs to happen. The pond is an important piece for the wildlife, for the geese, wetlands. If we utilize Nature Conservancy money, Nature Conservancy is going to want us to remove the dam completely and put it back to natural state. So we want to be careful on where we go get our money from, but to dredge it is about $1 million.
What if you did it at night?
On the weekends?
I can get you a good deal on nitrogen dollars.
A couple of excavators.
Yeah, excavators, yeah. I think we can find out people equipment.
Any other questions or comments on the manager's report?
There's really no reason to rebuild that dam, is there? It's taken its natural waterway.
I don't know.
I don't know why you're talking about it, because the pond was there for a specific reason, for the mill. And that was done in the old days when there were no laws pertaining to fishways. Now, the dam is gone, not needed anymore, the pond's not needed anymore. I realize that there's new wildlife there that's gonna be affected a little bit, but not much, because the geese have the dam up here to go to. Shouldn't you just let the stream take its natural waterway and go back to the old Caribou Stream instead of spending millions of dollars there for nothing?
Thank you for your comments, Wilford. Appreciate it. Any other comments on the manager's report from council? Okay. 11A, definition of economic development will be tabled, please. The 11B, 2020 budget presentation, municipal airport, city trailer park, and the cemeteries. Well, Dennis.
So this will be the first of many of these presentations for the 2020 budget. These are 3 elements or departments that we could bring to you tonight and begin to have some discussion on. The airport itself, currently the difference in the budget from last year to this year, the big difference is that in 2019 we anticipated being able to offload the operations to an FBO. That has not happened, does not appear to be likely to happen this year. The result being that we're going to have some major cost overruns at the airport. In anticipation of next year, still trying to get an FBO, but for budget purposes planning on having the full operations all year long. The proposal for the budget is to plan for full year's worth of operations. And so you do see that we're going from a $40,000 budget last year, or this current year, to a proposed $66,000 budget for next year. The biggest expense change within the budget is the avgas. Last year we budgeted $4,800, which was anticipating a $2,000 purchase, or a 2,000 gallon purchase at roughly $4.40 a gallon. We've had to do additional purchases in order to keep up with our 9-month requirement of putting new fuel into the tanks, and also because of the traffic that's been up there. And so next year, we're looking at an $18,000 line for avgas. The avgas itself, where we're charging more per gallon than we're purchasing it, it's actually a revenue generator, but it does indicate, or it shows up as a much higher expense than last year. Other elements of this plan, because we don't have an FBO up there, we continue to utilize our very own Mr. Dave Willett to run the plant and to monitor the fuel. He has to do that on a daily and even weekly basis, depending on what elements of the fuel island we're dealing with. He's also the first contact with people trying to get in for the hangars temporarily and any issues that are up there. And so we do provide Dave with a stipend for additional services not related to his job duties as a public works director. And again, in 2019, that stipend was not planned for all year, but in 2020, full year. There's almost everything else that's up there, standard operations, telephones, communications. We did find that the heating fuel for the hangar was higher than anticipated. The council airport committee met, was it last week, and discussed possible options for reducing the heating cost. We are going to be looking at installing some of the air units on the side, heat pumps, and look at being able to reduce some of our costs there. During the winter months, we keep the large hangar space heated to a minimum just to prevent freezing of the lines that are under the slab. I believe it's 50 degrees roughly.
54 was as low as I could get it with the thermostats that we have.
And so the heating fuel, it heats the large main hangar and also the bathrooms and the office spaces inside that building. So we'll look at what we can do with some heat pumps to heat the office space differently and maybe reduce some of those costs. We do have electricity for the main building, and the new hangars are on a separate circuit, so we're able to track those costs differently. Water, I spoke with the CUD district. They're anticipating a 2% increase in water rates for next year. I'm sorry, holding water rates but increasing the sewer rates by 2%. And so we've made some adjustments that way. Really, the buildings right now are pretty clean. We don't have a lot of major maintenance issues. There is some concern about the camera system that's up there not working properly. Right now, we don't have anything in the budget to redo that camera system. But overall, other major expenses are really the snow plowing is the big thing there, and the air consultant contract. The air consultant contract, what that is we work with, oh, and it just escaped me. Stantec. Yes, thank you, Dave. They're an engineering firm that specializes in airport operations, and so they help us work through the federal and the state processes whenever we have projects, submitting of reports, handling of our capital improvement programs. And so Stantec is on reserve for any engineering needs and services that we might have at the airport. Snow plowing, we utilize a part-time employee to come in and plow the runway. We've had some discussions about just closing the runway if we have another bad stretch of winter like we did last year. And it's, if we need, I believe that part-time employee also helps out on the roads. No, just airport?
Just airport.
Okay. And so we recognize that we don't have some of the clearing equipment that Presque Isle does for their commercial operations. We don't have a sweeper to clean the runways. We're not allowed to use salt or sand on the runways because of the potential damage to the planes and the runways themselves. So really all we're left with is plowing. And if the snow gets deep enough, if we don't get it plowed off, then we end up with some of the icing problems under the snow, which causes additional potential hazards for the planes. Last year we did have one incident where a helicopter, a life flight helicopter, came into land and there was too much ice. They tried to land and they couldn't get enough friction on the surface to land, and so they ended up flying over to Public Works Yard and landing there in order to pick up the patient. So we're very sensitive to trying to keep the airport clean and open to that critical service, but also recognize that there's costs associated with that and the timing of it. Sometimes it's easier just to send out a notice to anybody in the area that they can't utilize our airport because there's too much snow and ice on the ground. And I would also add that the noticing procedure that we have to send out and notify pilots has become very cumbersome. Those notices, they call them NOTAMs, make it so that we have to look at and inspect the runways, each of the runways, and you look at the approaches, the takeoff areas, the middle areas, and each of those we have to inspect on each side, down in the middle, and give a score to as to whether it's iced over, traversable or not. And so that's another operational aspect of the airport where we'd hope that an FBO could come in and start handling those things. But we're still doing it.
Did I hear you correctly? We do or we don't have to plow the runway to meet our obligation with the FAA?
If we do not plow it, then we have to send out proper notices that it's closed. And so we can, in a sense, close the runways if we do proper notifications.
Do we have to sell fuel in order to meet our obligation with the FAA?
No. The fuel and the hangars that we rent are the only revenue generators at the airport.
Yeah, I just kind of curious.
Yeah.
It says that we're going to give our salary is going to go up approximately $7,500 for labor.
Right. That would be a full year's worth of that stipend.
Is that something that gets wrapped up into when you're deciding what our hangar fees will be? You expect people that have airplanes up there that are renting the hangars to pick that up? Isn't that part of a cost?
Definitely part of a cost. Yep. And when we bring the fee schedule back to you, I can show you the analysis on that, and I can tell you that our hangar rental fees do not cover our costs. We would need to have 70 more hangars up there to break even at the airport.
How about if you went up on your fees?
That's a possibility, but they would price it out of the market. We'd be tripling, even quadrupling the hangar fees and still wouldn't be able to make it work. But I can share that analysis with you when we bring the fee schedule back.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Nate?
Life flight, like we used to have an airplane. If I'm going to fly out of here in an airplane for a life flight, is it going to be out of Presque Isle?
No, it will be out of Caribou.
Yes.
We just don't have a contracted service based out of Caribou for that.
What's the difference in time with an airplane and a helicopter? I mean,
couldn't tell off the top of my head.
Significant? I mean,
It's half the travel time.
half the travel time?
An hour and a half with the helicopter and 45 minutes with the King Air. Two Bangor. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but Life Flight will come to Caribou with either of them two planes or helicopter, providing that the runway conditions meet the criteria that they need to land. So if there's ice on the runways and we report it like we're supposed to, which I try very hard to do, if there's ice in that, they won't land with that King Air. So
King Air is
King Air is the big plane, the twin turboprop. I'd also like to, when we are reporting conditions, if we're closing the airport, one NOTAM closes the entire airport. It's not safe for anybody. When we're reporting conditions, they have to be updated every day. And although we know it as 2 runways, I have to place 6 NOTAMs to do conditions, because you can come in from this end and it's 19 midsection and then 11, or if you come in the other way, it's 11 midsection 19. So each runway has to have 3 condition reports. And it could be ice, could be packed snow, could be wet snow, it could be, there's a whole variety of things that could be, but, and then we still have to, so not only when we're reporting conditions, but not only do we have to report the 6 nodes of the runway, but we also have to have the apron and the approaches. So there's 8 NOTAMs that you have to put in place to report a conditions at the airport versus 1 that closes it. But as soon as you close it, Life Flight is not coming here. Life Flight will go to Prescal. Their ambulances will take you from Cary Medical to Prescal.
They wouldn't come by helicopter?
If we close the runway, they have to assume that it's not safe on the aprons or the approaches.
But you say they landed at Public Works once.
So when they came up, they looked at conditions that was reported. They were going to land in Caribou, but seeing all of the ice, decided it was unsafe and made the decision to land at Public Works because our yard is sand. Not quite so much of a problem for the helicopter, just landing versus a plane that has to track through and the tires kick up the salt and whatnot. There's a lot to that airport. I mean, it's not just a simple say, oh, I'm going to make a call and that's the end of it. When you're actually doing what you're supposed to do, which is what we have tried to do in the past year, bring everything up. I mean, we're in the digital world now, we're reporting digitally. I can tell you that for years, we made phone calls, and you could be on a phone for half an hour to close a runway for 4 hours because you're plowing snow on it.
Have you had special training to decide on the conditions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now, could the users of the airport, that airport committee that started up, are they qualified to do this? Could they become qualified?
They probably could, but then there's a coordination between, so it's not only conditions, but when do you call the guy out to go plow? Because when I call my crew out, I call the guy that plows up there, and the first thing I have to do is put a NOTAM out so the plane not landing on that road or trying to land. So I have to decide, is it closed? Am I going to report a runway condition, or am I going to put a 10-minute PPR? Because there's an option of any plane that's coming in, a 10-minute prior permission. So all of them are decisions that have to be made right on the spot. Sometimes that's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You have a doctor that flies in on Tuesdays. You close your runways, and maybe the doctor lands in Prescal. I mean, I don't know what all the other options are. I just know the things that I've seen in the year that I've been there, a year and 2 months, There's not a lot of activity in the wintertime. But to give you a rough idea, this past week we sold 500 gallons worth of diesel, worth of avgas fuel. So somebody's using it at time to time, you know what I mean? When we took over, I think we sold around 6,000 gallons of avgas in 2018. 2019, I think will be somewhere around 8,000 to 10,000 gallons for 2019. So the sales have actually gone up a little bit. I was really surprised that we sold 8,000 gallons in 18, but that's about what we ended up with. Or 6,000 gallons. 6,000, excuse me. And I think it's around 8.
What's the profit on a gallon?
About 50 cents.
I also think that, you know, when you talked about, do we need to sell fuel or have it there? One of the important decisions that you have to think about in doing that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if the city stops the operations of the avgas in 6 months or 3 months or 5 months or whatever it happens to be, you happen to find somebody that wants to be an FBO and start a business, they want to do plane work, they want to do this, they want to do that. Before then, that system can be put back in, that has to be inspected by Code 66, where they actually have to put a man down inside the tank for inspections inside. Thousands and thousands of dollars to get someone here for that. So I'm pretty sure that part of the choice for the city to maintain that system was to keep it going, so that if we did find an FBO, we didn't encumber that expensive cost onto them on a startup.
Okay, there'll be discussion later on the subject. Just seems like to me, though, the Airplane Association Group could buy the fuel, maintain it. They're the ones using it. It seems like we have a lot of expense into it.
So there is a lot of work into that fuel. The daily inspections, the weekly inspections, who wants to be responsible for, so we don't do the inspections and a plane fuels up and he takes off, and before he gets to Prescal, that thing comes right to the ground. They do an inspection on the plane because, unlike car accidents, the officers go and they look and they say, okay, the insurance company's going to fight it out. It's not going to be that way. As soon as they take a sample out of the wings or out of the fuel tank and they find water, they're going to trace it back to where it was bought from, and the city will be responsible for not doing what they said they were supposed to do. So, yes, I do the inspections. Milo, you know yourself how often water is in the tanks. I have to do sticks and water testing daily. You do them daily at your place?
Have that problem.
Right, and I'm not saying that anyone does. And 99% of the times, there is no water. But it's that 1%, and because it's in a plane and it's coming down, the rules are a lot stricter. That's all I'm saying. I go through 100,000 gallons of product at our public works and have this much stuff to do compared to 8,000 gallons at the airport and have that much work to do. So there's a big difference between the motor fuels and the ad fuels.
Well, I'm just kind of figuring out where the cost should be. How do you recoup these costs? It's my point. And if you can't recuperate the cost, then why do we do it? If we don't have to do it.
Oh, and I'm not arguing with you either way.
If we don't have to do it. That's not saying other people can't. I'm saying we don't have to. I meant the city doesn't have to do it. That's what I'm. But we can discuss that later. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Dennis, go ahead.
So,
Do you have an airport committee?
yes.
Who's on the airport committee?
Mark,
What?
may I address that?
Yeah.
I'm chair of that airport committee,
Are
Wilford.
you on the airport committee?
I just said I'm the chair. And what we are doing, and we met last week, we're trying to go line by line and learn how not to lose money at this. It takes time, okay? But you got to give me a chance, man.
No. The reason I asked, I'd like to talk to personally, not about this tonight, but with somebody on the airport committee. I'm very familiar with the airport. I used to fly out of there, okay? I know all about the airport. It's a losing proposition ever since they've had it here. It's costing us money for nothing. So, please, take some advice.
Well, get a hold of Tom. Okay. Dennis?
Okay. Before I move on to the Caribou Trailer Park, let me just remind the council that with these budget presentations, according to the charter, the public is supposed to be able to be given the opportunity to comment if they would like. And so in a sense, it opens up as another public forum on these specific budgets tonight. So however you'd like to manage that, but it is in the charter that we can take public comment on these budgets during this presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a difference, though, between public comment and question and answers. Anybody can make a comment.
Sure.
On any agenda item, if I'm mayor. Okay.
Okay. The Caribou Trailer Park. Right now, the trailer park, we had a budget of $14,700 in 2019. We expect it will go down slightly in 2020 because we have one of the trailers that is no longer livable and is going to be removed. So we'll have some reduction in costs, but overall, the cost of the trailer park are remaining the same. We do anticipate, well, again, this comes down to a philosophy of the council of how heavy-handed or how motivated are we to close this trailer park. If we want to get out of it, we have a process that we have to go through according to the state laws as far as managers of the trailer park. We can send out notices and give everybody 12 months of notice that we're going to close it in 12 months and make sure we go through the legal ramifications of that. But until we actually close the park, we're going to continue to have these issues. I know that there's issues up there right now dealing with code enforcement and with tenancies. We have people that have moved in and just moved a mobile trailer, not an RV, but a camper trailer, just moved into a spot. We're dealing with the police and them trying to get that cleared out. It is a bit of a headache. Most of the tenants are nice and quiet and just mind their own business. But there are those few that we have to deal with on a regular basis and can make life a little more difficult. But overall, electricity we expect is going to be slightly lower than last year's budget, almost a 20% drop in electricity, again, because of reduction of tenants that are there. Water we expect will stay close to the same. Sewer, we're dropping, based on the trends that we're seeing, we can drop the sewer by about 27%. Property insurance, we expect will go up from last year's budget. Street lights, we do have lights in the park that we need to maintain, and so we've kept the budget the same for those. Those are not associated with the LED project that we just completed, so we still have the metal halide lights up there. As far as we have to have an annual license fee for that, we do budget for park maintenance, garbage collection. The last line that you see in that budget is the year-end Caribou Trailer Park fee. Basically what that is at the end of the year, if our revenues have exceeded our expenses, as a business owner, we can expense that into our reserve funds. And so you'll see that there's a corresponding line in the revenues as well as the expense for that. And right now at the beginning of the year we just show it as a zero. So are there any questions on the trailer park?
I'm sure you said this, but it went over my head. How many tenants do we have? Would you guess?
I think we've got less, or is it about 10?
I think it's 11 or 12, and I'm not sure. That last one went out, dropped it to 11. I think it's 11.
And no one is, we're not accepting any new people going in.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to ask that again, because originally it was supposed to be cleared out through attrition. Once somebody left, nobody else was supposed to go in. But they are.
So state laws have changed since that original intent.
Okay. So they are going, you are taking others in.
There are no new trailers being moved in, but an existing trailer can be sold, and a new tenant can move into that trailer so long as that trailer complies with all the pertinent building codes, structural codes, plumbing and heating codes.
So how did the camper get in there?
They pulled in one day and connected to their associate's trailer. We're dealing with it.
Okay.
Good.
Yes.
Then I'm going to ask for a clarification on Joan's comment. So a person can own a trailer, sell it, and the new person can go in there?
They can only sell it to somebody else if they can they have to document that it complies with all of the codes. So we had one trailer last year. They hired a structural engineer or a structural inspection firm to come in, and they did a complete analysis of the trailer and provided that as documentation that it met all of the applicable codes. And after seeing that, by state law, we could allow them to sell that and occupy it with a new tenant.
Somebody moves out and a new person moves in and the trailer didn't meet the code, they can't buy a new trailer?
No.
Okay.
Can they fix up the existing trailer?
They can fix up the existing trailers
Okay.
with permits. But we'll charge $50 for.
Now, we've been doing this, what, 15 years now? When did this start?
When we bought the trailer park for the airport expansion, was it? It is.
Yeah, more like 20.
20 years?
The trailer.
So the newest trailer in there is 20 years old. At best.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Are there any that are going to get condemned at some point? Or?
There's one up there right now that the roof has fallen in, and we've talked with the trailer owner. They're willing to just turn it over to the city and have us remove it, but by the state law, we can't, as the park manager, make that a condition. We have to go through proper notices and let them know that it has to be moved, that they're given a certain time frame to move it, and then after they don't move it, we have to wait a period of time before we notify them that we're considering an abandoned property, and then give them additional time in which to claim their abandoned property before we can actually claim the trailer.
And then, sorry. Well, and then we have to pay to get it demolished.
Right.
The city has to pay to get it demolished. Yeah.
After you have it abated.
After you have it abated. Thank you, Jody. You're right. I almost forgot about abatement. When are we gonna stop this? We're not demolition services. And if we are, Jody and I'll go do it at night. With our night vision goggles.
Dave, you want to say something?
The only thing that I'd like to add to the trailer park, for just information purposes for the council, is the infrastructure at that trailer park is in very poor shape. Sewer pipes are coming apart, water lines were galvanized pipe, they've been in the ground for 30+ years. There's holes in them. The water usage that they're doing on a daily is probably 8 to 10 times more than what the homes that are there should be using. There's leaks through the park that can't be found. When they finally get large enough, it's like anything else. A pipe gets a thin hole in it today, next week it's a little bit bigger, and a month from now it's a little bit bigger, and you're constantly digging up there to try to fix underground water pipes. So I just kind of wanted to throw it out there for information.
Who fixes the leaks up there?
We do.
Is there
No, it's us.
That's our trailer park maintenance line.
we have some good help with utilities. They'll come up and try to locate for us.
You okay?
Well, it's a big one. 460.
Yeah, so how come there isn't anything in the budget for it?
We have $1,000 in there for park maintenance.
Oh, there is a thousand? Oh, no, okay, no. I was looking at the park maintenance. I'm looking at, okay, 160, not 147.
Yeah, so we're primarily where our public works is doing the maintenance, really that's for materials. When they go out and they buy something, that's the cost of materials.
Dave, I'm sorry. How scattered are they? I know we had moved some at one point, but are they all pretty much in the same row? Would it
No.
be cheaper to move them to the same row? And
Many of these cannot be moved without having them fall
Standing.
apart.
Okay, then, all right, then that reduces the number. I mean, if we're going to maintain a water line, it's better to maintain one than five. I mean, than sewer line and so forth.
Right. I'll pull up a map of the park. I believe it's pretty.
One of the things that's really amazing about that park is, the line leaves the well house and it heads for the first mobile home, and it's 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet that it's underneath the mobile home. That's where the shut-off valves are. So if you have to shut the water off, you hope like holy heck that you can get underneath there to get a valve shut off. Some of them are so old, they're just stuck, you can't do nothing with it. You have to shut the park down, cut the line, and put a ball valve so that they can work on the water inside the home. But all the lines, they run parallel with the roads, and the line is directly underneath the mobile homes. So if you get a leak, I don't know what we're gonna do if we ever get a leak underneath the mobile home. How are you gonna dig it out? How are you gonna repair it?
Carefully.
So the trailer I mentioned that the roof has fallen in is this one, the very southeast trailer.
Okay, now where's the water tank?
The upper left-hand corner.
Upper left, okay.
So the best part of that whole park is the well building itself is fairly new. The well's in good shape. The tanks, the pumps, and all that is in really good shape. That first road that is closest to the rec department, so the ones at the very top, that road is so poor, it really should be converted back to a gravel road. Right in that corner is where the well house is, where the pointer is now. The back road from one end to the other is in very poor shape. The middle road is not too bad, and the one that's closest to the airport is just so at best. The last time that any surface treatment was done was when Mr. Buck was here. That's been quite a few years, and it was just a single layer chip seal then, so. But if you look, when the water line leaves the well house, it runs directly underneath the mobile homes towards the backside. When it gets to the very first trailer closest to the road, it doesn't even go out beyond. Right directly underneath the mobile home, it comes out the end to go to the next row. So the trailer in the middle, that water line is entirely underneath that mobile home. So even if that's a 50-foot home, 60-foot home, the water line is directly underneath it to feed line number 3.
If the park was closed, would we be able to sell that land for anything, or would the airport restrict that?
It was purchased and is part of the airport master plan, and so we would not be able to sell it without amending the airport plan and getting permission from the feds to do that.
And would there be restrictions on, I imagine, on the height of any building placed there, or?
Not so much. There would be some, but it's out of the line of the flight path. So it would be less restrictive here where you're on the side of the runway. But it was all included in the airport master plan. You may recall that in looking at options for a new public safety facility site, we did talk about the airport property and this trailer park as one of the options. Any other questions on the budget?
Yes, could you, for next meeting or sometimes, give us an outline of what we have to do if we decide to close? I mean, what the steps are and how long a period of time and all that stuff.
Give it to us a little bit at a time, so it's not.
Yeah.
What do you suppose the problems would be of closing it down, other than the obvious? Having 11 people upset with us.
Well, I think, I was just thinking, we have a lot of property. Maybe part of the deal is we give you a good deal on a piece of land and you go put your trailer over there. I don't know.
If you can move it.
They won't allow.
Again, you wouldn't be able to move it because of the condition of the trailers, and we wouldn't be issuing a moving permit for it to move somewhere else in the city.
Do we have a right to shut it down?
Yes, as a park manager, we can, with proper notice.
Okay.
We just then run into the issue of if they abandon their trailers, we have to go through another process of everything else. But yes, we have a right to do that if we want.
Okay. Cemeteries.
So for next year, we've just carried straight across the same amount that we've budgeted each year for the cemeteries. Under state law, the city is responsible for basically taking care of veterans' graves, and based on the graves that we have in the different cemeteries, these are the amounts that we've budgeted for those. The cemeteries then use those funds to help maintain all of their cemeteries. We do have a fund that we put toward the Memorial Day flags, which we work with the VFW on. They will go out and they will post flags on each of the veterans' graves on our behalf, and that's been a pretty uniform amount over the years. So right now it's just a even budget from last year.
Okay. Any questions on cemeteries? Fair enough. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay.
Let's move on down to number 12. Reports of officers, staff, boards, and committees. Nothing, Jane?
Nothing,
Wow.
Mayor, I did ask Dave to just come in. You had a question about the chip sealing process this year.
Correct.
We have Dave give a quick update on the road maintenance work this year.
So it's been a very unusual year for us. I've got 4 employees out on medical leave, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks for surgeries, one with an arm, shoulder, another one with a back. And so in preparing the roads that we do, we do a fair amount of work out in the country roads before we chip seal. And this year here with the lighter crew, we didn't get done in as timely fashion as I'd like to. We did try to start the chip sealing, but the stone was so wet that actually makes the asphalt liquider, and it's not holding. So I stopped the process altogether rather than spend that money
for a product that may not last for the 7 years that we have for our program. I would very much like to ask the council if we could take the stone line and the liquid asphalt account and put that in a reserve account to use for next year, and we will do double the mileage next year, so it doesn't cost us double to do that. The only money that's been spent out of them 2 line accounts, one's for stone, one is for liquid. We did do Campground Hill, so I'll deduct that $25,000 or $30,000 out of them 2 accounts for that one road, and I would like to just move the rest to an account that we could use for next year without costing us more money to, you know, I don't want to spend that money. I want to save it for next year. But it's too late in the season for us to do the chip sealing. I'm convinced that we are not going to dry that stone out now. So.
Any questions? Dennis, would you give us the next city council meeting a number that Dave's talking about putting into a reserve account?
Okay.
Thank you.
And that just involves a transfer?
Authorization of the council, right?
Transfer, yeah, okay.
That way it doesn't end up getting used up in an overlay of some sort.
Right.
It just goes, it stays in that line.
Right.
You know, or I mean, pretty much. Assume.
That's why
That's why you would, okay.
explain how that works.
So, just out of curiosity, why were the rocks wet?
So when they crush the big rocks into small, we use 1/2-inch stone. It goes in a pile, and the pile is huge. If we could have done the chip sealing in the last of July or the first week of August, you have a lot of heat during the day that can penetrate that pile. The larger the pile, the harder it is to dry it in the center because it takes a while for that to get in there. Because the good thing is we did prep all of our roads. We have a fair amount of asphalt that we put down for shimming. So I feel confident that we can survive one more season without chip sealing them. I like to seal that surface, but because of the extensive work that we've done with the paver, we'll be all set to go through the winter. But back to your question is, now that we're into the last part of August, so we're into September, it's just like in the farm. The fields don't dry out in the fall like they do in the spring. And that emulsion, MS2, that we put down is a water-based product. We put it down at a 0.385 to 4.5 gallons per square yard. And when the stone is wet, that reduces that liquid down. And what happens is you put that product down, and if everything is good, when the stone sits on it, as that is drying, it raises to about the halfway point of that rock, and that's the glue. So if we used it in simple terms, we're using Gorilla Glue to hold the rocks, but if we let the rocks be wet, we just change it from Gorilla Glue to Homer's Glue. And I'm not willing to take that chance.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, are you done on the River Road then this year? Are you not going to be able to?
With the amount of work we were going to start today, but because of the rain, we're still going to do our paving process. That's something that the product is a lot hotter. The water doesn't bother it. Rain in the next few days will hold us up a little bit, I'm sure, but we will do all the paving.
Are you going to do anything with the damaged section this year or wait?
So we're still kind of waiting for an alignment for how far we can legally turn that road around.
The guy, the surveyor or whatever, the engineer was there, I think, for the guy in the blue truck with all the
I think what they do is they were taking measurements and then going back to decide what they can do. There's a legal aspect of where that road and how sharp the bends can be. I would love to be able to tell you that we could put a temporary bypass in there, but I've just told you that we can't do the chip sealing. So it depends on when snow comes. Last year we had snow in the 23rd of October. I mean, we're only a month away from that. I still have 7 plow trucks and 3 loaders to get ready too, plus this work that we're doing, so.
Will we still be able to use it as is through?
Yeah, so my intent is if we cannot make a temporary pass, as soon as the ground freezes up, I will bring a piece of equipment, I'll push some barricades back towards the damaged area, and we'll have at least what we had last winter.
Right, yeah.
Okay?
Thank you. Any other comments from the council?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I'd like to commend Gary and the Parks Department on the dog park. The dogs are happy and the people are happy, and any problems with the neighbors? So it's a win-win.
Place busy.
Good job.
Really busy.
Okay, any others? Chair will entertain